The 1982 one-penny coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II is a significant piece of modern British numismatic history. Issued by the Royal Mint of the United Kingdom, this coin belongs to the decimal coinage system introduced in 1971, replacing the old pounds, shillings, and pence system that had been in use for centuries. The 1982 one-penny coin continued the tradition of featuring the monarch's portrait on the obverse and a symbolic design on the reverse, and it marked a notable year in the evolution of British coinage for several reasons, particularly relating to changes in metal composition and the consolidation of design standards. The obverse front of the 1982 one-penny coin features the second definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machin, a renowned British sculptor. This portrait had been in use since 1968 and continued to appear on coinage until 1984. In the depiction, the Queen is shown wearing the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a wedding gift she received in 1947. Surrounding her effigy are the inscriptions Elizabeth II D.G. Reg. EFD 1982, which is abbreviated Latin for Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This traditional inscription reflects the Queen's role as both a constitutional monarch and the supreme governor of the Church of England. The portrait captures a youthful and elegant Elizabeth, reflecting her middle years as monarch, and it has become an iconic image for collectors and historians alike. The reverse back of the coin, designed by Christopher Ironside, features a crowned portcullis with chains, an enduring symbol of British Parliament and governance. The design draws its origins from the badge of Henry VII and has long been associated with the Palace of Westminster. The crown atop the portcullis is the St. Edward's crown, used in the coronation of British monarchs. Below the portcullis is the word one penny, denoting the coin's value. The design is both functional and symbolic. It serves not only to declare the denomination but also ties the currency to centuries of British political heritage. Ironside's choice of the portcullis as the design for the one penny emphasizes stability, continuity, and national identity. A key technical characteristic of the 1982 one-penny coin lies in its metal composition. Prior to 1992, all UK one-penny coins were made of bronze, an alloy consisting of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. The coin weighs 3.56 grams, has a diameter of 20.3 millimeters, and features a plain edge. However, the 1982 issue is one of the last few years before later coins were minted in copper-plated steel. For collectors, this distinction matters. Bronze coins of earlier years are heavier and have a different tone than their steel successors. Due to inflation and increasing copper prices, the Royal Mint began experimenting with different compositions, which would lead to a fundamental change a decade later. In terms of minting, the 1982 one penny was produced for general circulation in substantial numbers, although exact figures are often rounded to the tens of millions. Because the coin was not issued as part of a proof or commemorative set, most specimens are found in circulated condition. Uncirculated or proof versions were issued within annual coin sets released by the Royal Mint for collectors, and these versions display a much higher quality of strike and finish. Coins that remain in mint state or brilliant uncirculated (BU) condition are more desirable to collectors and command higher values on the market, even though the base metal value of the coin itself is relatively low. Historically, 1982 was an important year for the United Kingdom. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, Britain was engaged in the Falklands War, a 10-week conflict with Argentina over the disputed Falkland Islands. The war had a strong impact on national pride and Britain's role on the international stage. In such a politically charged environment, even small tokens of state, like coins, took on layered meaning. The image of Queen Elizabeth II on coins like the one penny reflected the enduring stability of the crown during times of political change and military challenge. The coin also served as a piece of everyday life for millions, used in daily transactions in shops, on buses, or for public telephones, still widely in use at the time. Numismatically, the 1982 one penny is not considered rare, but it is noteworthy for being the first year that the word "new" was removed from the reverse design. From 1971 to 1981, UK decimal coins such as the penny had the denomination new penny on them to distinguish them from pre-decimal coinage. In 1982, this wording was changed simply to 1 penny, as the public had by then become familiar with the decimal system. This makes the 1982 issue a transition piece. While not rare, it holds historical significance in reflecting the full adoption of decimal currency in Britain. From a collector's standpoint, value is typically modest for circulated examples, usually worth only face value unless in pristine condition. However, its importance lies in context rather than cash. The coin represents a period of stability within the British monarchy, a maturing decimal system, and a nation undergoing political and global change. It stands as a physical artifact of early 1980s Britain, an age of rotary telephones, analog television, and Cold War tensions. It is a coin that passed through the hands of ordinary citizens, bearing the likeness of a queen who reigned over decades of transformation, modernization, and social evolution. In conclusion, the 1982 one-penny coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II is a fascinating artifact that blends history, art, politics, and economics in a small circular form. While it may not fetch high prices at auction, its value lies in the stories it carries, about the crown, about a country changing in the modern era, and about the everyday people who used it. It is a coin of transition, both in terms of design and in historical context, and continues to be of interest to historians, educators, collectors, and enthusiasts of British heritage. Next top. The 1984 one-penny coin from United Kingdom is a small but historically significant artifact that offers insights not only into British currency, but also into the broader social, economic, and royal heritage of the nation during the late 20th century. Issued during the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, the 1984 one-penny coin belongs to the family of British decimal coinage that was introduced in the 1970s and became a foundational part of everyday transactions across the UK. Though modest in size and monetary value, this coin represents a significant period in British history marked by political transformations, technological advancements, and the enduring symbolism of the monarchy. The obverse side of the 1984 penny features the second definitive coinage portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, which was created by Arnold Machin, a distinguished British sculptor and coin designer. This portrait, introduced in 1968 and used until 1984, portrays the Queen wearing the girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a wedding gift to Queen Mary from the girls of that name in 1893 and later gifted to Elizabeth II by Queen Mary. This depiction was designed to present the monarch as youthful, elegant, and modern, attributes that the government and royal mint wanted to emphasize during a time of substantial cultural change. The legend around the portrait reads, Elizabeth II DGE Reg FD 1984, which is an abbreviated Latin inscription meaning, Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This phrasing connects the coin to centuries of British monarchic tradition and reflects the Queen's dual role as both a sovereign ruler and head of the Church of England. The reverse of the 1984 one-penny coin was designed by Christopher Ironside, another prominent figure in British numismatics. It features a striking image of a portcullis with chains, surmounted by a crown. The portcullis, a heavy grilled gate once used to defend the entrances to castles, is a symbol long associated with British Parliament and Westminster. Its presence on the penny reflects Britain's constitutional structure and the strength of its democratic institutions. The crowned portcullis emblem was originally adopted by Henry VII and has remained a heraldic symbol of the state ever since. Around the image is the inscription 1 penny, and below the design is the coin's face value. 1. The simplicity yet significance of this design made it easily recognizable and deeply rooted in British heraldry. The design of the coin is emblematic of the British tendency to balance tradition and modernity, merging historic symbolism with a contemporary coinage system. From a technical standpoint, the 1984 one-penny coin was struck in bronze, which at the time comprised 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. This bronze composition gave the penny its traditional reddish-brown color and a distinct metallic luster. The coin has a diameter of 20.32 millimeters, a weight of 3.56 grams, and a thickness of about 1.52 millimeters. Its plain edge, without milling or lettering, is characteristic of lower denomination coins that do not require extra anti-counterfeiting measures. The Royal Mint produced these coins for general circulation, and the 1984 issue was one of many continuous yearly issues that served millions of Britons for everyday use. While not a rare year, it marks the final year for which the Arnold Machin portrait was used on the penny before being replaced by the third portrait designed by Raphael Makloff, which debuted in 1985. The context of Britain in 1984 is critical in understanding the world in which this coin circulated. The nation was in the midst of Margaret Thatcher's second term as Prime Minister. Her Conservative government, elected in 1979 and re-elected in 1983, was pushing forward with sweeping economic reforms, privatization of state-owned industries, and a reduction in the power of trade unions. The 1984-85 miners' strike, one of the most bitter industrial disputes in British history, began in March of that year and deeply divided public opinion. This coin, then, was circulating at a time of widespread political tension and economic transformation. Despite the hardships, the British economy was slowly transitioning into what would become known as the Thatcher-era economic model. The coin, found in the hands and pockets of miners, teachers, office workers, and pensioners, silently bore witness to a shifting society. In the cultural domain, 1984 was a notable year in Britain's evolving identity. The influence of American popular culture was surging through music, fashion, and film, but the UK retained its unique artistic expression through icons like George Orwell, whose dystopian novel 1980 foreloomed symbolically over the year. Musically, the UK was bursting with creativity through the emergence of synth-pop, new wave, and the second British invasion of the American charts. The coin, while a symbol of continuity, existed in an era of fast-changing tastes and technologies. Technological shifts were also redefining daily life. The use of personal computers was on the rise, with British companies like Sinclair Research introducing affordable computing to the middle class. The coinage system, however, remained physically unchanged, even as society began inching toward digital and plastic forms of payment. Still, the 1984 penny remained a core part of vending machines, pay phones, bus fare boxes, and cash tills across the country. In terms of mintage figures, approximately 1,401,739,001 penny coins were minted in 1984, indicating widespread production to meet the demands of a cash-based economy. Despite its large mintage, the 1984 penny retains interest among collectors for being the final year of a coin portrait series. Since it was replaced in 1985 with the Raphael Makloff obverse, 1984 effectively serves as the closing chapter of a 16-year design era. The coin is commonly found in circulated condition and has little numismatic value in that state, typically worth only its face value, or a few pence to collectors. However, uncirculated or proof specimens, especially those preserved in mint condition, can fetch higher prices, usually in the range of £1 to £3 depending on condition and presentation. Complete decimal coin proof sets from 1984, issued by the Royal Mint, also include this penny in a polished, lustrous finish, and are favored by collectors seeking representative examples from each year. Another important numismatic dimension is the coin's legacy as part of the UK's decimalisation project, which began in 1971. Prior to decimalisation, the UK used a complex system of pounds, shillings, and pence, 12 pence to a shilling and 20 shillings to a pound. The new decimal system simplified currency to 100 new pence in a pound, making mathematical calculations easier for commerce and accounting. The 1984 penny, therefore, represents not just a unit of currency, but a system-wide modernization that aligned Britain more closely with the practices of other industrialized nations. Although decimal coins faced initial resistance from some traditionalists, they were quickly accepted, and the penny became a ubiquitous object in British life, from supermarket counters to children's piggy banks. By the late 20th century, the penny had already lost much of its purchasing power due to inflation, and its role was becoming increasingly symbolic rather than practical. Still, It remained a staple of low-cost pricing strategies, often used to psychologically price items at 99 pence instead of £1. Thus, the 1988 one-penny coin of the United Kingdom, featuring the inscription Elizabeth II DGE Reg. FD 1988, and the reverse design marked 1 penny, is a small yet historically and numismatically significant coin. Though modest in face value, this bronze coin encapsulates a wide spectrum of the United Kingdom's economic, cultural, and royal history during the late 20th century. By 1988, Britain was in the midst of dramatic political and economic transformation under the government of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and the coinage in circulation reflected both tradition and change. The obverse of the 1988 penny bears the elegant portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Raphael Makloff, which had been introduced in 1985 and used until 1997. Makloff's portrait is notable for its slightly idealized presentation of the Queen, with the royal diadem, crown, and formal dress, projecting a timeless dignity. His initials RDM can be seen at the truncation of the Queen's neck. The inscription surrounding the portrait, Elizabeth II DGE Reg. FD 1988, is a Latin abbreviation for Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith, a centuries-old titulature that ties back to the British monarchy's ancient religious and political roles. The reverse side of the 1988 penny displays the image of a portcullis with chains, surmounted by a crown, an emblem historically associated with the Palace of Westminster and a long-standing symbol of Parliament. This design was created by Christopher Ironside, a respected designer of British coinage. His design had been introduced in 1971 as part of the decimalisation of British currency, which replaced the old pounds, shillings, and pence system with a modern decimal system. The denomination 1 penny appears clearly around the top and bottom of the reverse. The 1988 penny was struck in bronze, a metal composition of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin, which had been standard for the denomination since its decimal inception in 1971. This would be one of the final years the penny was struck in bronze, as rising metal prices in the late 1980s led to a change in composition. Beginning in 1992, the Royal Mint would switch to copper-plated steel, which was more cost-effective and offered a magnetic property that made coins easier to sort in vending machines and banks. Thus, the 1988 penny represents the end of an era of bronze coinage, making it particularly attractive to numismatists who seek to collect coins by metal type or era. The weight of the 1988 penny is 3.56 grams, and its diameter is 20.3 millimeters, with a plain, smooth edge. It is small in size, easily handled, and familiar to nearly every citizen of the United Kingdom at the time. In terms of mintage, the 1988 penny was struck in vast quantities, well into the hundreds of millions, by the Royal Mint, which is the official mint of the United Kingdom and has been producing coinage for the monarchy for over 1,100 years. Because of this large mintage, circulated examples of the 1988 penny are not considered rare, and their monetary value today is usually equal to or only slightly above face value unless found in uncirculated, proof, or mint condition. Special collector versions were also minted in proof sets for numismatists and are distinguished by their mirror-like surfaces and sharper detail, usually preserved in protective cases. Collectors value these more highly, especially in pristine condition. The social context of this coin is also worth noting. By 1988, the UK had firmly adopted the decimal system introduced in 1971, and younger generations had grown up entirely within that system. However, older citizens still remembered the old pre-decimal coins and the historical significance of coinage with denominations like farthings, shillings, and half-crowns. The penny itself had been redefined during decimalisation and was now worth 1/100th of a pound, differing from the pre-1971 penny that had been worth 1/240th of a pound. Thus, even a humble coin like the 1988 penny sits at the crossroads of Britain's numismatic evolution, bridging the historical monetary practices with the contemporary ones. The coin also reflects the enduring role of Queen Elizabeth II, whose reign, by 1988, had already lasted more than 35 years, making her one of the longest reigning monarchs in British history at that time. Her image on the coinage evolved through multiple portraits, reflecting her aging, yet always presented in a regal and timeless manner. The Maklov portrait used on this 1988 coin is considered among the most formal and majestic, and was often used in official souvenir coinage and medals. As such, the coin does not merely function as currency, but also as a symbol of continuity, tradition, and national identity. In the broader economic picture, Britain in 1988 was experiencing economic growth, but also facing the social challenges of deindustrialization and economic reform. Coins like the 1 penny were commonly used in everyday transactions, vending machines, newspapers, phone boxes, and even children's pocket money. Though minor in value, it was a ubiquitous part of daily life, one that nearly every citizen would interact with on a regular basis. It also served as a subtle reminder of national history, as all coins of the realm bear the monarch's image and Latin titles. In conclusion, the 1988 British 1 penny coin is a modest yet richly symbolic piece of coinage, intertwining royal portraiture, historical emblems, changing economic realities, and evolving minting practices. Though abundant and often overlooked in circulation, it reflects a turning point, both in its material composition, which was soon to change, and in its placement in the timeline of Queen Elizabeth II's long and celebrated reign. For collectors, historians, and casual enthusiasts, the 1988 penny is more than just a copper token. It is a tiny, tangible artifact of British heritage, encapsulating centuries of monarchy, a decade of political change, and a pivotal moment in the evolution of modern coinage. Next top. The 1991 1 penny coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II is a modest yet historically significant part of British numismatic heritage. Though it may seem like an everyday object, this small bronze coin represents a deep intersection of British monarchy, minting practices, and economic evolution during the late 20th century. To fully appreciate the 1991 1 penny coin, we must examine its physical features, historical context, the monarch it depicts, the reverse design, changes in composition over time, its place within the broader decimal coinage system, and its collector's interest and value today. Every detail, from the effigy to the minting technology used, tells us something about Britain in 1991 and the legacy of its coinage system. The obverse of the 1991 1 penny coin displays the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, who was the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom from 1952 until her passing in 2022. The portrait featured on this coin is the third definitive coinage portrait of Her Majesty, designed by Raphael Maklov. Introduced in 1985, Maklov's depiction presents the Queen wearing the George IV state diadem, a crown worn during the state opening of Parliament. It is a more stylized and idealized image compared to earlier portraits, with an emphasis on regality and timelessness. The inscription circling the Queen's effigy reads, Elizabeth II D.G. Reg. EFD 1991, an abbreviated Latin phrase for Elizabeth II Dei Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, meaning Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. This long-standing inscription reflects the traditional religious and constitutional role of the monarch. On the reverse, designed by Christopher Ironside, we see a stylized representation of the portcullis with chains, surmounted by a crown. This design was adapted from the badge of Henry VII, and the portcullis is an enduring heraldic symbol historically associated with the Palace of Westminster and British Parliament. The portcullis evokes themes of governance, authority, and the protective role of Parliament in British society. Below the image is the denomination, 1 penny, in all capital letters, clearly indicating the coin's face value. The layout is clean, formal, and deeply rooted in British heraldic and institutional symbolism, emphasizing the coin's legitimacy and seriousness as legal tender. From a technical perspective, the 1991 1 penny coin was struck in bronze, consisting of 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. This composition had been used consistently since the decimal penny's first issue in 1971, following the decimal day reform of British coinage on February 15, 1971, which shifted the UK from the old pound shillings pence system to a simpler decimal currency. However, this 1991 issue stands near the end of the Bronze Era. Beginning in 1992, the Royal Mint switched to copper-plated steel for cost efficiency as copper prices were rising. Thus, the 1991 penny is among the last group of British 1p coins struck in traditional bronze, giving it an added level of historical interest for collectors and historians alike. The diameter of the coin is 20.3 millimeters with a weight of 3.56 grams, and it has a plain edge. These specifications were standard for the denomination during the Bronze Era. The Royal Mint produced large quantities of 1-penny coins annually to meet circulation demands, and in 1991, the mintage was also substantial, with over 601 million coins struck. This means the 1991 penny is still relatively common in circulation in the United Kingdom today, though its bronze composition makes it slightly more interesting than modern examples. Despite its wide availability, sharp uncirculated examples, especially in brilliant uncirculated BU or proof condition, may attract attention among entry-level collectors, especially those compiling complete decimal collections or coinage from the reign of Elizabeth II. From a historical context, 1991 was a transitional year in British society. Margaret Thatcher had recently stepped down in 1990, and John Major was serving as Prime Minister. The UK economy was entering a recession, and the Maastricht Treaty negotiations, which would lead to the formation of the European Union, were underway. The United Kingdom was reassessing its role in Europe and the global economy. Though these broader political events might seem far removed from a 1-penny coin, coins serve as enduring, everyday reminders of the political structures and national identity of their time. The Queen's image on the obverse subtly reinforced a sense of continuity amidst social and political change, while the portcullis on the reverse echoed the sovereignty of Parliament during a period of complex negotiation and evolving governance. In terms of numismatic interest, the 1991 1-penny does not hold significant monetary value due to its high mintage and continued circulation. In circulated condition, its value remains its face value, 1 penny. However, uncirculated or proof coins issued in Royal Mint sets can fetch modest premiums, especially among collectors focusing on typesets, bronze coinage, or Queen Elizabeth II portraits. Proof versions of the 1991 penny would have been included in Royal Mint annual proof sets, packaged for collectors with mirror-like fields and sharp details. In these sets, coins were not intended for circulation, making them visually distinct and more desirable for display and archival purposes. In conclusion, the 1991 1-penny coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II might appear small and commonplace, yet it encapsulates a meaningful chapter in the narrative of modern British coinage. From its elegant Mackloff portrait of the Queen to its heraldic reverse evoking centuries of royal and parliamentary history, the coin reflects the strength and stability of Britain's constitutional monarchy and minting traditions. It also stands as a transitional artifact, representing one of the final years of bronze 1p coins before the switch to copper-plated steel. As such, the 1991 1-penny deserves recognition not only as an object of monetary function but also as a symbol of national identity and a quiet witness to the social, economic, and political realities of early 1990s Britain. Whether held in hand as pocket change or placed in a collector's tray, this unassuming coin continues to carry with it echoes of a bygone era.